Sandy Says Read. Welcome to the channel. This evening, you guys, we are going to do a review and discussion of this book, Let It Snow. I'm looking at the screen to make sure you can see it because you can't. There we go. A little bit less glare now. Let It Snow. There are 3 authors in this one. Before we begin, I keep forgetting at the beginning of these videos to tell you who our sponsor is. Your sponsor is me. I don't have any examples. I was going to bring examples of the stuff on my merch shop to show you guys. I failed. I really am ready for this video. I have notes here for you guys, but here we are. Okay, so my merch shop, I've got bookish merch at my merch shop. So if you would like to get Christmas presents for yourself or your friends and family that talk about their reading comprehension skills, you may go to SandySaysRead and buy something for them to support me and show off your reading comprehension skills. I will put a link to that in the drop-down box below. The commercial is over. All right, let's talk about Let It Snow. This is 3 holiday romances book. I have had this book for a couple of years on the TBR shelf, the Christmas TBR shelf. I just got to it this year. The first novella in this book is amazing and great. The other 2 are okay. The first one is just amazing. So we're going to talk about all the things, and then we're really going to focus on the first one because, you guys, I would recommend you buying this book just to read the first story. Okay, so let's talk about it here. Let It Snow, The Specs. It is published by Speak, an imprint of Penguin Group, in 2008. So it's a little bit older. I'm late to the game. You guys have probably already read this, so this review is going to be full of spoilers, okay? At least I think it is. Yeah, probably. This book is 352 pages, total 352 pages, but there are 3 stories in here, okay? The first one is The Jubilee Express by Maureen Johnson, and that one is told from Jubilee's point of view. She's a young teen girl. The next book, the next novella, is A Cheertastic Myracle by John Green. That one is told from Tobin's point of view, and he's a teenage boy. The third novella is The Patron Saint of Pigs. That one is by Myracle, and it is told from Adeline's point of view, and Adeline is a teenage girl. So these are all young adult novellas. Obviously, they're all told from a teenager's point of view. Let's see, what should I talk about first? Because I'm like jonesing to get to the first story to tell you guys about it. So let's do a synopsis of Mr. Green's story. Okay, A Cheertastic Christmas Miracle. Okay, this one, you guys, I wrote down here, a bunch of stupid, hormonally charged teenage boys race to Waffle House to be first to impress and score with stranded cheerleaders. You guys, that really is what the second story is about. It's a little bizarre. I did not enjoy the second story as much as the first. But really, the first story in here is just so good that the other 2, they had no hope, okay? What's happening is the main character in our second, the Cheertastic Christmas, the main character is Tobin, and he is, just a high school teenager, right? He can drive, so he's at least 16. And the story starts out with him and his 2 friends sitting on the couch watching James Bond movies. It's Christmas Eve, and his parents are stuck in Boston. They're snowed in, and they're sad that they can't get home for Christmas with their kid, which I think is a little bit odd, but there you go. So we didn't need parents in the picture, so had to have an excuse to have them not be home. So Tobin he hangs up with his parents, and almost instantly the phone rings again, and it's his friend, whose name I can't pronounce, but his friend who works at Waffle House. He's an assistant manager at Waffle House, and his friend is like, dude, get your Twister game and get here to the Waffle House because all these teenagers, all these cheerleaders just walked in the door. They want to play Twister. Get here fast because the other guy who works here just invited his friends. And if they get here first, we can only accommodate so many people in the restaurant, and we'll lock the doors. So get here. So Tobin is like, oh my gosh, there's cheerleaders at Waffle House. Let's go. And that is that's what drives the story, is them getting to Waffle House to hang out with cheerleaders. Well, Tobin has, one of his friends is named the Duke, but she's a girl, and she she's named the Duke because at one time when she was coming into adolescence, she walked into a store called the Duke and the Duchess, and the proprietor of that store thought she was a boy and called her Duke. So then that name stuck, and she's just left it because she's kind of a tomboy and she doesn't mind. Well, she's starting to mind because she likes Tobin, right? And she wants him to see her as a girl and not just one of the guys. So that's playing into the story too, and that's where the romance in this second story comes in. Is the Duke, whose name is Angie? She would like Tobin to see her as a girl, and they can get together. And Tobin is starting to realize, wow, she looks like a girl, and she's kind of cool. And so that romance is coming in this story, but they do have this race to the Waffle House, and because it's snowing a lot, there's like 5-foot drifts. They can't get the car up this hill, and then they plow into a snowbank, and there's all these. It's mayhem trying to get to the Waffle House. It's basically, the story is them trying to get to a Waffle House so they can play with these cheerleaders, and Duke being mad at Tobin because he wants to go play with cheerleaders. It's very young adult, okay? But it turns out okay. Because it's a romance and it's a young adult romance, it turns out okay. And it's very clean. I mean, there's no sordid crap. It's very clean, okay? All right, let's talk about story number 3. Lauren's story, The Patron Saint of Pigs. This one, this is... Okay, I wrote down here, a self-absorbed teen who broke up with Jeb, then asked him to get back together. The self-absorbed teen, that's Adeline, right? Is that her name? I got it, yeah. Okay, Adeline, this is told from her point of view. And she is, a teenage girl who is terribly sad, terribly depressed, and terribly self-absorbed, and very self-centered, very much concerned about her own needs. And she's always been very much concerned about her own needs, right? But she's been going out with this guy named Jeb for about a year. And she broke up with Jeb. She broke up with Jeb because she cheated on Jeb. And she feels that because she cheated on him, he will eventually break up with her. So she might as well go ahead and break up with him first. And then he went off somewhere, and she was expecting him to be back in time for Christmas. And so she sent him an email asking him, okay, look, I'm so sorry I broke up with you. I didn't want to break up with you. I just thought I should, but I really love you and I want to get back together with you. So will you please meet me at Starbucks and I'll sit there and wait for you. And he didn't show up at Starbucks. Now, there's a reason for that, and we're going to get to that. But so there's like this teenage angst, and there's so much sadness, and she's so depressed because he rejected her, and Okay, so her friends come to see her, and they're like, hey, you're depressed. You sent us a text. What's up? And she explains, look, Jeb doesn't want me. And they're like, well, you broke up with him, right? Okay, so they chat with her and tell her, look, you're kind of self-absorbed. And she's offended by that. And she's trying to prove to them that she's not self-absorbed. So she volunteers that she will go pick up this little teacup pig that they bought for their friend for Christmas. The little teacup pig is coming in from the breeder, and it's going to be at the pet store at 9 o'clock the next morning. And when they open at 9 o'clock, and it's already been paid for, and there's like going to be a note on the invoice form saying to hold it for the friend. So Adeline is going to go pick up the teacup pig and prove that she's a good friend by picking it up and bringing it to her friend. Well, the next morning, she goes to Starbucks to work. She has to be there at like 4:30 in the morning, and she's working, and all these things keep happening. Customers keep coming in, and all these crisis after crisis after crisis, and she's not able to get away from the counter at 9, right? So she's there until like 10:30, but she gets away. She gets to the pet store, and the teacup pig has been purchased and picked up by someone else. It's gone. So she has failed her friend, and she's like, oh my gosh, did you not see the note that says this was to be held for a certain person? As it turns out, no, the kid behind the counter didn't see that note. It was on the back of the slip, and so there's this mayhem going on. Well, Adeline's arc, sort of kind of an arc, is that she cares about her friend, and she wants to make it right for her friend, and she does go on this like journey to find this teacup pig. She finds it, she collects it, she brings it back for her friend. It works out. Young adult romance. Oh yeah, Jeb does show up. Okay, so let's talk about the first story. I want to get back to the first story because that was awesome. There are all sorts of things threading these stories together. So let me read you what's on the back cover, okay? Because these are threaded together, and it kind of, okay, it tells us this on the back cover. An ill-timed storm on Christmas Eve buries the residents of Gracetown under multiple feet of snow and causes quite a bit of chaos. One brave soul ventures out into the storm from her stranded train and sets off a chain of events that will change quite a few lives. Over the next 3 days, one girl takes a risky shortcut with an adorable stranger. 3 friends set out to win a race to the Waffle House, and the hash brown spoils. And the fate of a teacup pig falls into the hands of a lovesick barista. A trio of today's best-selling author, blah, 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 blah. Okay, the rest is just stuff, okay? So the first story really sets the stage, sets it all in motion, and is just the best story in the book, okay? We have Maureen Johnson is the one who wrote the first story, The Jubilee Express. And I wrote down here, it sets the stage. It's humorous, it's well written, it's clever, and I've marked some of these like just clever moments that are just wonderful. The first one is on page 1 of the story. I just love the way she introduces her character. All right, chapter 1. It was the night before Christmas. Well, to be more precise, it was the afternoon before Christmas. But before I take you into the beating heart of the action, let's get one thing out of the way. I know from experience that if it comes up later, it will distract you so much that you won't be able to concentrate on anything else I tell you. My name is Jubilee Dougal. Take a moment and let it sink in. See, when you get it up front, it's not that bad. Now imagine I was halfway through some long story, like I'm about to be, and I dropped that one on you. By the way, my name is Jubilee. You wouldn't know what to do next. Now, isn't that clever? That is just an amazing way to start the story. I mean, she's giving the main character's name to you, but it's clever. It's Jubilee's style. I mean, the character Jubilee talks that way throughout her story. I mean, she's just got this humorous tone about her. She's self-deprecating, but clever. She's witty. I really like this character. Okay, what's the next one? Page 6. Okay, and this one, we're seeing more of her character again, but we're also diving into the story, the what's about to happen here, okay? Let's see. Noah was aware of this, and though tonight was a family event with many people in attendance, he promised me there would be time just for us. He had made sure of it by helping out in advance. If we put in 2 hours at the party, he promised we could escape to the back room and exchange our gifts and watch The Grinch Who Stole Christmas together. He would drive me home, and we would stop for a while. And then, of course, my parents got arrested, and all of that went to hell. And so our story, we dive into our story, because, I mean, her parents got arrested. What's up with that, right? And so we dive into what happened with that. Her parents collect these little figurines and houses for this, what's called the Floby Village. And one of the big Floby releases this Christmas is this like elf lodge. And so her parents went to be in line to get this elf lodge, and there was like a fight in the line, and so her parents got arrested, and they're part of the Floby 5 who are in jail on Christmas Eve. And so they call an attorney who's like lives near to them. His name is Sam. Sam comes over and says like, hey, okay, Jubilee, your parents have been arrested. They're in jail. I can't get them out, so I bought you a train ticket to send you to your grandparents in Florida. And she's like, well, I'm supposed to be going to Noah's for Christmas Eve. Scratch that. You're going to your grandparents. Pack. So she gets on a train, and the biggest snowstorm they've had in like 50 years is descending upon them. The train gets stuck. Well, on the train, she meets Jeb. Now, do you recognize that name? We talked about that name in story number 3, didn't we? Yeah, because all of these stories are interconnected. Like they told us on the back cover, they're all interconnected. She gets stuck, the train gets stuck next to Gracetown. Well, Gracetown is where Jeb was going anyway. Well, Jubilee is on this train, and she's with all these cheerleaders that she can't stand. She's with Jeb, who can't get his phone to work. I mean, it's one crisis after another, and she decides, okay, look, I'm going over to that Waffle House across the interstate. I'm going to get me some waffles. I'm going to relax where it's warm. I'm done with this train. And she does. She gets off the train. She walks across the interstate. It's freaking cold. She goes into the Waffle House. She's sitting there. There's a fellow who's wearing like a tinfoil suit. Literally, he's wearing a tinfoil suit. That character wearing the tinfoil, he shows up in each of these 3 stories. He's got just one minor little role to play in each of the stories, which is very clever, I thought. There's just little bits and pieces that carry through these different stories, but that Waffle House is important. This fellow named Stuart comes into the Waffle House, and he's just gotten off work at Target, and he comes in and he just needs some coffee, and he sees Jubilee sitting there, and he's like, "What's going on?" And she's like, "My train, is stuck over here." And he's like, "Well, do you need somewhere to stay for the night?" And she's like, "I'm not going with a stranger." He's like, "You're going to be stuck here with these cheerleaders, or you can come home with me. My mom would be glad to give you some food." She's like, "You know what? I think that's great." So she does. She walks home with this guy, and he's a teenager like her, right? And she sees when he shows her his ID, he's trying to show he's a nice guy, right? When she sees his ID, she also sees there's a picture of him with a girl. So she figures he has a girlfriend, therefore he's safe to go wandering off in the snow with, right? Well, it turns out that girlfriend had dumped him like a few months ago, and he's kind of sort of getting over it, but not really. And he likes Jubilee. He thinks she's kind of cute. They end up falling through some ice on their way to his house. And I want to read that section for you, because I give a flavor of the author's writing in these reviews, and this was so cleverly done. I mean, I was laughing as I was reading this the first time through, even though these poor kids, these teenagers are catching hypothermia. It was still funny. Okay. This is in chapter 6. Maybe you've never fallen into a frozen stream. Here's what happens. 1, it is cold. So cold that the Department of Temperature Acknowledgement and Regulation in your brain gets the readings and says, "I can't deal with this. I'm out of here." It puts up the "out to lunch" sign and passes all responsibility to the Department of Pain and the Processing thereof, which gets all this gobbledygook from the Temperature Department that it can't understand. "This is so not our job," it says. So it just starts hitting random buttons, filling you with strange and unpleasant sensations, and calls the 3, Office of Confusion and Panic, where there is always someone ready to hop on the phone the moment it rings. This office is at least willing to take some action. The Office of Confusion and Panic loves hitting buttons. So, for a split second, Stuart and I were unable to do anything because of this bureaucratic mess going on in our heads. When we recovered a little, I was able to take some stock of what was happening to me. The good news was we were only in up to our chests. Well, I was. The water came exactly breast high. Stuart was in up to his mid-abdomen. The bad news was we were in a hole in the ice, and it's hard to get out of a hole in the ice when you are pretty much paralyzed with cold. Pretty good, right? They do manage to get out of the ice. They go to his house. His mother, Debbie, just is excited and thrilled that this girl has come for Christmas, right? They're a Jewish family, but she decorates for Christmas, and she's excited to have this girl here because when Jubilee came into the house, Stuart was happy. Stuart brought this girl home. They're both freezing, but Stuart was happy. And Stuart hasn't been happy for months since his old girlfriend dumped him, right? So Debbie is like matchmaking. She's going to get these two together. And by the end of this first story, they do get together. And that's the romance of this young adult story. And it is well done. It is clever. It is fun. It is cute. Now, Jubilee did have that boyfriend back home, Noah, right? But Noah was just, and every hint is there at the beginning, Noah was just aloof, unavailable, uninterested, disinterested, I guess I would say. And because Stuart's girlfriend had dumped him, he saw those signs in the way Noah was ignoring Jubilee. And he's telling her, I don't think your boyfriend's really paying attention to you. I don't think he's all that into you. Ask a couple questions, figure some things out here. And she does, and she dumps Noah over the phone. She's like, "Look, dude, I don't think we're right. I don't think this is I don't think this is good. I'm dumping you." And Noah just kind of lets it, okay, yeah, probably right. So she's done with Noah, and she kisses Stuart like within, 30 minutes, right? So, okay, young adult romance, first story in here, the Jubilee Christmas, excellent, Jubilee Express, excellent, wonderful, good story. I would recommend purchasing the book Let It Snow and diving into it just for that first story. But the other two stories do connect. There is that connection. We see what happens to Jeb. We see him get his happy ending. They're all connected. That Waffle House, those crazy cheerleaders, the different characters, they just interweave and interconnect. That connection is there. But the first story is the one that I just really enjoyed and I liked that one. It was funny. I mean, I was laughing out loud while I was reading it. It was really good. I liked it. Maureen Johnson. I think I'm a fan of Maureen Johnson. I would look up more things by her. There we go. So, in your Christmas reading this year, for your holiday entertainment, I can recommend Let It Snow from 2008. So, it's been around a while. That's it, you guys. Thumbs up for good Christmas reads. Please follow along here at the channel and click the bell notification icon so that you're notified each time I do these random things. Thanks for tuning in, you guys. Click. Oh, good heavens. You guys really, I need an editor or something to help me with these things. Thanks for tuning in.